One thing you can say for America's war on drugs, it makes great television. The Clinton administration is putting new emphasis on trying to stamp out drugs right in the countries where they grow. Yet all the heroin America consumes in a year can be grown on just 50 square miles, almost anywhere on Earth. And that full year's supply can fit in one single cargo plane. For every kilogram of drugs intercepted at our borders, it's estimated that at least 9 kilograms get through.
Police! Police, open up!
Hands in the air! Hands in the air! Please, down!
On March 25th, 1994, Boston police, executing a no-knock drug warrant, burst in on an elderly black minister, wrestled him to the floor, and handcuffed him. 5 minutes later, he died of a heart attack. No drugs were found. Police said an informant had given them bad information. Good evening. 81 years ago, in 1914, America declared war on drugs, passing this nation's first law against narcotics. A decade ago, in response to the nation's growing alarm over the rampant drug trade, President Reagan began waging that war all out at immense costs in treasure and human suffering. During the next hour, we'll be looking at some disturbing reports from the battlefronts of that war. We'll total up some startling figures on its cost to the American taxpayer and to the American way of life. We'll report on its successes and its far more frequent failures. We'll ask whether this war is being won, whether indeed it can ever be won as it is now being conducted. And then we'll look at some alternatives cropping up here and there across the land that suggest if we can't win this war, perhaps we can find ways to peace. That's the subject of tonight's Cronkite Report, the drug dilemma, war or peace. In the past 10 years, as 3 presidents have prosecuted their war on drugs, federal expenditures, our tax monies, have shot up from $1.5 billion a year to almost 10 times that, almost $15 billion. It's estimated that over those same 10 years, federal, state, and local governments together have spent $150 billion of our dollars fighting drugs. As Americans, we've not only the right, but the duty to ask, is that money well spent? So our first estimate is a startling one. Of the 260 million Americans now alive, 77 million of us, almost a third, have tried drugs at least once in our lifetimes. And the government estimates that almost 40 million Americans continue to use drugs right now, today, at least once a year. 10 years into the all-out war, America has the highest rate of drug use per capita in the industrialized world. There's at least some good news. Casual drug use, that's Americans who use narcotics irregularly, every few weeks or so, largely white, middle and upper class cocaine users, has dropped steadily since 1985, from 22 million to around 12 million. That's a reduction of almost half. But the hard core of America's drug abusers, some 2.7 million people who use illicit drugs more than once a week, has remained undiminished year in, year out. For a while, it looked as if our children were giving us some good news. Use of illicit drugs by high school students trended steadily down from 1985 to 1991. It looked like victory in perhaps the most crucial battle of all, but no more. In 1992, that trend suddenly reversed. Today, war or no war, drug use in the schools is going back up, and our children say they're less and less convinced of the dangers of drugs. What do we do now? Redouble our efforts? Pour ever more billions into the war we've been fighting these past 10 years? Get tougher still? Build more prisons?